First of all, one of the things to make explosions sound super dangerous is adding an extra layer of metal. Yeah, the impact of the grenade or the shell or the missile or whatever is being exploded. Now we're going to find some samples that help to create a dangerous metal sound in the sample. Okay, so now I'll just talk you through some of my metal selection. I chose this because it has a very high frequency range and just sounds distorted, so something like an explosion. Then I chose this. It's kind of reverberated. I actually wanted to show you how we can get something from real life to affect the size and scale of a sound. So proportion. This is a really large sound and it's got a lot of bass in it, so I'm hoping I can do something cool with this. And this is a very interesting sound because there's a lot of bass in it. It sounds very big, but there's also this little squeaking sound in it, and this might actually cause problems in terms of trying to create an explosion to sound big. The reason being is the squeak sounds very close to your ears. You can probably hear it again. And what that sounds like is that the microphone is super close to the squeaking sound. So that compared to something like this, where the rattles, even the rattles of the metal, sound kind of far away and it sounds like the object is really big. This one sounds very, very close and potentially small. Perhaps it's a contact mic on something like a fridge or something like that, or the microphone is very, very close to the sample. So yeah, let's just go ahead and start layering this up. Okay, so this is interesting. The original sample does not sound like it's in the same key as the explosion. So when we listen to this, I'm not musical enough to know what key that's in, but when we listen to this and them together, it doesn't sound like they're quite in the same key. So if we pitch this down a little bit, I'm using the tape algorithm. So the sample rate is lowering, which means that the pitch lowers. Okay, I think that fits a little bit better. Now let's listen to some of the other metal. This is more just for the sharp transient. We don't need anything else from that. I'm not even sure if we need the sample. I don't think it's going to come out in the mix. Okay, so this is a very interesting example of what I mean. So if I mute this sample, the explosion sounds pretty big. Now, this is interesting. When we add this metal squeak, do you see how it immediately makes the explosion sound smaller? It sounds like you're hiding in a fridge and the explosion is like just outside the back of the door. And if you mute it, this could be anywhere. This could be outside. This could be like down the road, you know. This is it sounds far bigger than when you can hear this little metal squeak. Cool. So there's a few things that I want to speak about here. First of all is how we layer all these sounds together, and also about keeping space for your transients, etc. So first of all, we haven't got any sounds that are particularly similar. This one, as you remember, sounds very similar to this one. So there is no point to have both of them. Here we have metal sounds. This one does not work. We can just delete it. It makes the explosion sound small. Here we have just some metal rattling. We could even tidy that up a little bit more in terms of lower frequencies. So yeah, let's just cut some of those frequencies out again. We just want it for chaos factor, you know, bit of grit. Same with this one. This is basically just white noise. It's literally just for creating the kind of explosion sound. This is just a nice ignition of the explosion. We could even tidy this up a little bit to save some headroom, as you cannot really hear it from there. Jesus, that's explosion. Here we have the sweetener, which is kind of somebody else's sound design that I didn't want to completely steal, but that's doing most of the heavy lifting. This is going to be important for later when we want to start making the explosion sound distant, but also look at how far this is pushed back from the other samples. So it's not interacting with, or it's not taking up headroom for some of the other samples. Here we have this initial explosion, which I really like, and that's why it's there. And that's literally just to make things sound big and scary and boomy, and this is also going to be important for later. Cool. We could even theoretically do a double explosion, which I do kind of like. Let's see what that sounds like. I actually kind of like that. What's really interesting about that as well is that it sounds close because of the first layer. So this is something that, you know, maybe sounds like a mortar hitting the ground or a grenade landing next to you. But then we have the big sounds coming afterwards. When you mix all of these together, it sounds like something is landed close by, but is still big. Unlike when we add the metal that I deleted, which just makes the explosion actually sound smaller. This is how you can basically mix your sounds to give you different feelings of perspective. The sound that I'm happy with, this one, has a lot of moving parts, so to speak. It has a landing sound, it has an explosion sound, it has a tail. And this is great because now once we want to start creating distance with the explosions, yeah, we have a lot to work with. We can mix things differently, we can change the timings, like how close together these are. And yeah, and that's really exciting.